So what do you think is the difference between values and beliefs? They're both in the inside world.
I would say
Well,
that you oh, go
Okay,
ahead.
Oh, sorry, you can
Kubala,
go,
you go first.
Jeremy.
No,
It's
Kubala,
okay.
you go first, then we'll go to Jeremy.
Okay. Values are things what is important for me in life,
Mhm.
and beliefs are something which I have learned from my parents or from a childhood, or is something I've taken on from other people, basically.
Okay, fantastic. Jeremy?
Yeah, I was going to say it's something similar, and I always have in my mind that values are your kind of main motivators and drivers, things that you hold dear for
Yeah.
yourself, and beliefs attached to those and built through, as you just said, like through experiences and memories and things that you've gone through in life.
Okay, fantastic. How I like to describe values are bigger than you. They're bigger than your beliefs. Values always have someone else included. So if you're doing something and you know your mum wouldn't like it, even if your mum's still not around anymore, that's maybe a family value that you're going against. There's always someone else involved. So it could be family values, it could be company values, it could be cultural values, religious values. There's always someone else involved. Beliefs are very personal to you, but values have someone else attached to that, and someone else that guides. People talk about values being their guides. So they help us to determine what is important to us. Knowing your values helps you determine what's important. Values describe the personal qualities we choose to embody to guide our actions. They influence the sort of person we want to be, the manner in which we treat ourselves and others. So it's like a set of rules or a set of guiding principles that we have that we live our lives to. Now, there's all sorts of people have all sorts of values, and many people have values maybe that you don't agree with. But just because you don't agree with them doesn't mean that they are not important for them. But if you live in a community where they all make their money through stealing, that's the value to that particular community. And who's to say that's right or wrong? Because remember, we know in neuro-linguistic programming, we're working from a place of non-judgment. There could be another community where it's all about violence. All disputes are sorted out through violence, through fights. Whether it's fisticuffs or blowing each other up, doesn't matter. But that's the values. So it's understanding values, whatever values someone has is something that's a guiding principle for them. It's also how we interact with the world around us. It's ways, living with our values is the ways we interact with the world around us. So the type of values we have is, you could have personal values. Personal values are beliefs about right and wrong and what may or may not be considered moral. Now, where do you think you get your personal values from? Or where do you get all your values from? Let's just open up. Where do you think all the values come from?
It starts from the family, childhood, environment, from anybody, really.
Yeah, it's something that gets instilled in us in children. Very much in children. And then as we grow up, we'll either fight against these values. That's what teenagers are doing. Adolescents and teenagers fight against family values, fight against all sorts of things. And then once we move into the workplace, we move into the area of company values. Now, a lot of companies have their mission statement and their values, and nobody's connected with them. And when no one's connected with the values of a company, then the company has a problem. And I'm seeing Jeremy smiling and nodding his head. I'm seeing a few other people doing that. As NLP business coaches or business consultants and professionals working in business, we're working with this a lot. We're working with scenarios where, according to the company, we have openness and trust. And according to everyone that's working there, we have bullying and no trust at all. So when you have a discrepancy between values, you're going to have a problem. And then we have family values. Family values are passed down through generations and shape who we are from an early age. Where we see a big shift in family values, and this links over onto cultural values as well, I worked for a long time out in the Middle East. I was actually 18 years in total working out in the Middle East, including Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, Saudi, all these the places there. Also, we see in the UK, many people living in the UK that are British, they're third or fourth generation British, but they have come from a different heritage. And we will often see a battle going on between maybe cultural values of someone who's been brought up in the UK against their family grandparents' values, or working in some place in the Middle East where you'll see people from all different cultures, where they realise there's some of their cultural values may have to shift slightly to be able to work in a multicultural environment. So it's understanding that these are things that are running, they're filters. From an NLP perspective, they're filters that are running in our heads that are affecting the way we behave and the way we can communicate with others. Then, as I said, cultural values are values accepted by religions, societies, and reflect what is important in each context. It's impossible for me, because of all the years I lived in the Middle East, to run an online training in the middle of Ramadan and do that. I can't do it, because it's going against huge spiritual and cultural values for people who are observing Ramadan and they don't drink anything or eat anything during daylight hours. So again, there's ways, especially if you're working in different cultures, getting to know the cultural values and being able to adapt to certain cultural values. Look at the value of timekeeping. I come from the UK. Some of you come from European countries. In general, the Western European countries, we work to time. I've just done a couple of weeks ago some training in Switzerland. Oh, for goodness sake, talk about clockwork. Unbelievable. Everyone turns up at time. Everyone's ready to go. Try doing a training out in the Middle East or India or Italy or Spain or Turkey or places like that. And there's different values. Completely different values around timekeeping. And so you can either get really frustrated about it, or you could do what I do, tell people that the training's starting an hour earlier than it actually is. If you know they're going to be an hour late, you just tell them, okay, our training starts at 8 o'clock, knowing that they'll come in at 9. You're ready to start at 9. Or you might have to just adjust yourself and adjust the way you work to what we're dealing with that particular culture. So these are all some of the things that are all affected by values. Then company values are the standards that guide the way you do business. They sum up your business stats, what your business stands for, influences the organization culture, and drives how and why you do things. And this is where we know there's a huge disconnect. And one of the things that I like to do when I'm working with organizations is I like to work from the top. I tend to not take on work where I'm asked to go in and, can you sort the company out, please? And you're going down, maybe it's lower management here, and you've got your senior management, your directors, and the board here, but they want all this tier all sorted out. But actually, the problem's all coming as being cascaded downward. Yeah. Sometimes people have got to take that work because maybe it's the only work you've got. But my goodness, if you start saying yes to work like that, you're going to have a problem. Because at some point, the people you're working with will not be able to, they won't be able to implement what you're asking them to, especially when you're working around the areas of openness and accountability and trust within organizations. Your values impact everything. They're impacting absolutely everything that you do. So, for example, think about the jobs that you've left or you're unhappy in. I'm sure that you've had jobs that you've been unhappy in or jobs you've left. The people you socialize with who make you feel uncomfortable, the people you work with that make you feel miserable. How do you think that fits with values? What's happening there? Jobs that you just don't like. I had a job, I worked with a closed circuit television company, and one of the things I had to do was extend leases on closed circuit television company, televisions for very small businesses, small family-owned shops. So they'd be coming to the end, maybe 10 years, they'd be paying the lease, and they were paying maybe about £5 a month really small amounts. I'm talking this was 1990, really grainy old black and white camera, one screen. And my job was going to say, we can put in a fabulous screen, four different cameras, all colour, all moving, we can watch everything, and it will only cost you £3 a month. Oh, fantastic. Yes, where do I sign? That's what I was supposed to do. But what I wasn't allowed to tell them was you're actually signing in for another 10 years that you cannot get out of. And they were at the last, we did all this at the last 2 months of the lease. So if they'd paid £10, they'd have owned the system. And for a lot of these people, they were near retirement, and it really was not going to make that much difference to their business. I stayed there for 6 months. I couldn't get people to sign a contract without giving them the fine details. So anything to do with leasing, I've done it a few times. I've not really been able to stick with for a long time because the small print is where people make the money in a lot of leasings. So the other type of values, think about a company you love working for or clients you love working for. The relationships, these relationships that are just seem natural and right. These people you connect with, you build rapport with. The people that energize and motivate you. So what do these things have in common? The first examples are when you're with people who don't match your values. When you're with people that don't match your values, or when you're with a client that you cannot work with similar values, or you're with friends or colleagues that don't match your values, you will get exhausted and you will get completely drained, because you are fighting against your natural energy all the time. I was at the gym this morning, and it was really interesting. We had to pair up, and I paired up with this young girl that was on her own at CrossFit, and I thought, I hadn't seen her before, so I'll pair up with you. I thought, okay, I'm going to get showing up here. I've got to really push myself. This is a young girl. This girl couldn't move. Everything was such an effort and everything was so hard. And we had 30 seconds left to do something. It was her turn, but we're working turn. I said, on you go. She said, oh, we've only got 30 seconds. There's nothing we could. And that was going so against my values. I had to stop myself getting frustrated with her. One of the things you cannot teach anyone who's in a position where they're employing people, one of the things you cannot teach is enthusiasm. Enthusiasm and a desire to learn. These cannot be taught. So you can think there's someone you're going to work with who's absolute, and why I brought that particular example is what happens if you bring on a coaching client and the coaching client seems as if they can work, and then once you start coaching them, they can't be arsed to be coached. And I would make no apologies for using that word there. They just, everything, and they'll come up with excuses. Every time there'll be an excuse. So sometimes you've got to step away from relationships because you're just hitting your head against a brick wall because you haven't got matching values. The second examples are with people who do match your values. What happens when you work with people that do match your values? Think of a team where they're all aligned with their values. They fly. They support each other. They trust each other. They're open with each other. They're able to say, I'm stuck, can someone help me? Or they're able to say to someone else, okay, I've finished, what can I do to help you? Knowing that person's not going to just sit back and let them do the job all the time. So it's when you're working with aligned values. So if you're in a company or if you're working with a team in a company, sometimes if the company values are all over the place and not aligned, you can get incredible results if you manage to get the team's values aligned. Because it only takes one really good team in a company to show up the rest of the teams. If one team can pull, who works in companies? I know quite a few of you go into to work with companies, yes? And I know, Magnus, that you do this a lot. If you've got one team who's doing brilliantly in a company and other teams are struggling, you've got to ask, what's that team doing that's making that the result? And very often you'll find they're all aligned with their values. They have said, don't care about the rest of the company. We're going to align ourselves. We're going to work with each other. And you get people fly. They absolutely fly when everything's aligned. When you become clear about your own values, it becomes much easier to take these into consideration when making important decisions in your life. Now, I know that, Colin, I don't think you got this. Let me just put in the chat box again. I've just given you my values elicitation sheet today, and I've just put it in the chat box. That's the one that I use with clients. It's a writable PDF, and I'm happy for you to use that. So when you're in the breakout room, you can maybe discuss that handout and click what your own values are. Because when you can help yourself or help your clients identify their values, this becomes a benchmark for what career move they want to make next. And I've seen it happen so often. And Miriam, I know that we were talking a little bit on the training we're doing recently. Miriam was talking about, I'm not going into details, but she was just talking about different values and where things fit in one area and they don't fit in other areas. And when we go into these different areas, you normally find it's going against your values. So remember, if you're going for a job, if you're being interviewed, it's a two-way process. You're interviewing, or if your clients, if you're working with coaching clients and helping your coaching clients prepare for interviews, for career interviews, get them to think about the values they want. What values, what's their values? What values do they want from other people? How do they want other people to treat them? How do they want to be treating people and expect to be treated in return? What sort of values do they want back from a company? What values are they giving to a company? Also, this works in relationships. I do work with relationships because every single one of us work with human beings, and every single coaching contract I will find at some point we're working with relationships somewhere. But very often, if you've got a relationship that's doing that and constantly doing that, when you look at the values, you'll find that the values are not aligned. And that's what's causing the problem. So just giving people a benchmark that they can use to actually consider if this job is right for them or not. You can create a benchmark, a reference point that can add as a consideration when making important life and career decisions. So it's really interesting bringing the values, getting your clients to think about their values and identify their values. And we go through, we do this in much greater detail on the NLP Business Club. When we do the masterclasses, we did a brilliant exercise, a couple of masterclasses on that. So these are examples of values. There you go. I'm not reading them all out. You have that in your handout. And what you've got there with it, just go back on that. It's not taking me back. Okay. You've got that in the handout. When you've got these values, and you can let someone look at these values, I'm happy for you to use that handout. And you might say to your client, is there another value you have that's not there? Or is there a value in your language that doesn't translate into English? Because we know there's lots of languages, there's lots of value type words in other languages that don't translate into English. So we get people to add any values that we want. I tend to say to my clients to pick the top 10, and I would work with them to identify the top 3 values, and then I leave them to go and work with the rest. And I'm asking questions such as, how do you display that value in your behavior? How do you expect other people to display that value in their behavior to you? So we look at it from both sides. We look at what someone is doing to live with their values, and also what they're expecting from someone. So I'll just do it with one person. So let's get one person with one value. Who wants to come on? One person with one value. We'll do this very quickly. Okay, cool. I'll just put spotlight for you. Okay, so what's the value? What value are you talking about?
Transparency.
So how are you transparent with the people that you work with?
In a team and my employer, I would just be open and honest about the situation. I would give facts and figures. I would explain the situation, and I would be open. It depends what situation it is, about how I feel about the situation.
Okay, and that's something that you're quite comfortable and happy to do?
Absolutely.
Okay. How do you expect others to be transparent with you?
The same, I think, open discussion and open with, but they have to also show me a sort of the factual side as well. I'm talking about a work environment. They're just coming with something. And if they're honest and transparent with me, then I accept it. But obviously, it needs to be done professionally also, non-threatening, no argument or something, as we just talked now, open discussion.
So if someone's open and transparent with you, but you don't accept that or don't agree with what they're saying, what happens?
I would say I see it slightly different and give them the reason and the facts from my side. So I would give an evidence for what my experience are.
Okay.
I wouldn't disagree with the person. I would just say I look at it or I see it differently because of this and this. Let me show you.
Okay, so can you see, thank you, Kulabi, for that. Let me just remove the spotlight. What was the main thing that Kulabi was focusing on there? There was one thing that jumped out that was really important he was talking about. What was he focusing on? Who heard it? He was focusing on the evidence, facts and figures. Okay, he wasn't focusing on hearsay. He was focusing on they've to bring me facts and figures. So they've to give evidence, open and honest, but open and honest with facts, not open and honest with opinions and just saying their opinion's wrong. And that was just a very quick example of some of the ways that I would work with this with clients, where I'm working to really get people open and get people really talking. Now, I've just had a wee look here while I'm talking. Because I've got this new system I'm using for today, I can't get into the breakout room. So we're not going to be able to do a breakout room. Sorry, I didn't test that before we came on. So what I'll do, I'll go over the rest of this and then we'll just have an open discussion if everyone's happy just with the recording on. Okay.
Fiona, a question.
Yeah.
What would you suggest me then to do it? More looking at the other person's opinion. Is it what you're suggesting me?
No, not necessarily. What you were saying there was very much, it was open and honest, but open and honest with evidence and facts and figures. And that's so important in business. Don't come to me with saying I'm overworked. Okay, give me the evidence. I've only got 2 hours to do this. I was given this report to do, it's taking 45 minutes. Then I was given something else to do, it's taking 45 minutes. Then someone came and asked me to do something that'll take 3 hours. So and that is, again, with values, because we don't work with one value, we work with a series of values. So what we're doing there is really, it's encouraging people, when we're working with values, there has to be some sort of benchmark. And it's open and honest with examples. And again, when you give feedback, you always give feedback, not you always, because lots of people don't do it this way, feedback according to me, because remember, anything that I'm sharing here is only according to me and only according to the way I'm working in business. Feedback in business should be on what you hear. And it could be, if it's someone's manager coming to you, you're their manager, it's what that manager sees and hears. Not what they've heard someone say that someone has done, because we know people are deleting, distorting, and generalizing. And also things like, you can't really say to someone, I saw that you were really angry in that meeting. How do you know they were angry? How do you know they weren't frustrated? How would you give feedback for that? I know I've gone off topic just a moment.
Well, I would say I've noticed, or your expression made me think that you were, not in a good mood or whatever.
Okay, I wouldn't even make me think. It was in that last meeting, you interrupted 4 times, you raised your voice, you spoke across some people, you were rolling your eyes, you were tutting.
You're right, Zane.
And you were not giving people, were not giving people focus. So I haven't said that someone's angry. I've just said what I saw and what I heard. And I'm not taking it into my inside world to give my opinion. That's how I teach giving feedback in business. Okay. Yeah. What other questions? Let's get a few more questions just now. Anything else just now? Or any comments about what we've covered so far, or any examples? Yes, Magnus? Great.
But I have a metaphor for you. You was talking about the teams, and you were talking about that if someone is not following the team values and so on, and you always ended up in the same results. It will not work. And my metaphor for that is usually I say you have a bowl of apples, and if one of the apples is rotten in the bowl, it will overtake all the other apples.
Yeah.
So take the apple out.
Yeah.
and that is either you change the behavior of that person, or you ask that person to leave the group.
Yeah. And very often, thank you very much for that, Magnus. Very often what we find is that the majority of people are not aware of their impact on other people. You know that. I've just seen it happen so often where I'm coaching senior management or team leaders or managers, and they get horrified when they realize the impact of maybe their behavior, or maybe not living up to certain values within an organization, because they've been so wrapped up. Remember, I am the center of my world. They've been such the center of their world, they don't realize they're impacting on other people. So very often, Magnus, what you said there is just helping someone become aware of that and help them change their behavior, because the changing behavior makes a difference. Okay. What else? Let me just get another couple of people before we go on to the last wee bit.
I've got an example. So from a values point of view, so I work in recruitment from a candidate and client side, and I very much talk through interview preparations with candidates of what types of questions may be thrown at them, what to expect. And one of the key things that I always discuss is the values of the business and how that aligns with the candidate. So I understand the candidate's values and the client's, and then we discuss it at interview preparation for them to ensure that is brought up at interview stage. So then the company know that they align with their values.
Okay. And is this companies that you know keep to their values?
Yeah.
Because there's plenty of companies they've got the values up on the wall, and nobody in the company is working these values. But I know Leah's a highly experienced recruitment director, and I know that you work with companies that you've worked with for years, so you know the values of these companies. Because there's no point in joining a company where one of the values is we'll develop and grow you, and then you find you get in and sorry, we don't do any training now, we don't invest in training, we don't invest in that, and you're blocked. So straight away, and if you change the values, think of the scenarios where someone has gone against your value. How do you feel? How does that make you feel? You get angry, you get frustrated, you get annoyed, and you shut down. You're not going to give your best. But when people are aligned with your values, you'll give as much as you possibly can. Yeah. Okay. Who else?
I've got.
Thank you, Jeremy.
I'm just curious about something that I'm seeing at the moment with a company I'm working with, because they have a set of company values, 5 values, and they actually go to those values in every all hands.
Yes.
It will also reward people in recognition every month or quarter relative to the values. When I spoke to the CEO and I asked him about the values, he said, I'm not sure they're right, really, but we use them anyway. And I was like, wow. That's interesting. So I'm just curious as to how would you approach that with the CEO, that conversation? Because they are being used in the company, and yet the CEO is not quite on them.
Okay, so you're saying the CEO is not quite on them. The CEO is not opposed to them completely.
No, he's not completely opposed.
What I would look at there, okay, so in what areas within these values do you not feel it's aligned? And it could be tweaking one value. It could, because the last thing, if you think about meta programs, same and different, the last thing you want to do is suddenly, the value has been working to for the last 20 years. We're not going to use them. We're going to bring different values in. You're going to cause problems. But most people accept same with exception. So you would look at, okay, we work, and I would work very much from if this was agreed, when you're introducing the organization, you would introduce it according to me. Okay, we have been working brilliantly to our values. We know times are changing. We know business is changing. And every so often, we're just going to look at slight amendments. So as from next month, there's a slight amendment, and what we'll be looking for is this. It's going to be the same process. We're still going to be rewarding living and working to your values, but we're just making it more even, and I would use even more applicable for today.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, because remember when you bring in even more, what you're doing is you're recognizing that's all been working really well. Yeah. Okay. Does that help? Yeah. Deep tea.
Thank you.
Deep tea. Yeah.
So Fiona, my question is, let's say there is a very close friend, and like I happen to notice a value which is completely in conflict with my values, and I'm finding it little difficult to interact with my friend now. So how do I like, as a friend, that person is really good, but it's a little bit from my side, I'm restricting myself to talk or that kind of interact with the person.
Okay, has this value always been there in your friendship?
It wasn't there. It was there, but I didn't notice it, kind of thing.
Okay, so as you're going through your development, developing your calibrating skills, developing your NLP skills, and this is what happens a lot of times when people are training in NLP communication skills, we start to notice more about people. And we start to notice things maybe we didn't see previously. Now, what I would always like to say is not every friend has to fit every single value of yours. Very often you can have friends at different levels of friends. Different friends for different scenarios, different friends for... I've got some very good friends that I would not share confidential information with because I know they'd be judgmental, but they're still really good friends. I've got family members who I wouldn't share certain things with because I know that's their style is to be quite judgmental. But that doesn't stop me being friends with them. It's just certain things I wouldn't share. But I wouldn't try to change them. But what we do find sometimes, the more you develop yourself, the more sometimes we step away from friends because our values go like that. We start maybe developing different values, or maybe existing values become stronger. And we see this a lot when people have children. We also see it a lot when people become sick, where sometimes when people have children, all of a sudden, who's got kids? I don't have any kids, but I'll put my hand up to see who's got kids. Who's got kids here? Those of you who've got children, I'm sure your values, there was certain values in your life changed as soon as you were responsible for a new person, a new human being that you were absolutely responsible for. Values change. So all of a sudden, maybe the party person is no longer the party person because they don't value going out and partying anymore. They value looking after their family. Or sometimes when people are looking after people that are sick, there might be someone who was the life and soul of the party. And maybe they used to enjoy a drink, they used to enjoy going out to eat, they used to enjoy smoking, whatever it was, maybe some recreational drugs. And then something's happened and that has changed them. Their values have changed. So they find the people they used to be friends with in that old life are no longer there. So the question for you, Deepti, is it something you can work with or not? You don't have to answer that just now, but it's sometimes we've got to, because remember, from an NLP perspective, we're working non-judgmentally, but also you've got to work with what's best for you. If you've got a friend that keeps pulling you down all the time, sometimes you've got to say, is that person the best for me? Sometimes we shift away from friends in our life, but other times we go into what we really like about that person but just don't share the things that would go the wrong way with them. Yeah, because it's all for, and this is me at my stage of life, all the different friendships. I'm still making friends. I'm 70 now. I'm still making new friends, and I make friends of all ages. And I have done all my life. Some of my friends when I was in my 20s were in their 70s and 80s. So you've got friends for different reasons, different things to do. Or sometimes you just call them acquaintances. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much. Let's just share this last bit. I like to talk about the values. So when someone feels validated, appreciated, listened to, understood, and encouraged. So that spells value. The number of times I will work with leaders and I'll say, how do you value your team members? Oh, I don't need to value them. They know I value them. And then I'll say, so they're telepathic. Using these words, let me just share that with you again. You might want to take a photograph of that. Use these words in emails. Use these words when you're talking to people. And for validated, I would use the word validate. I absolutely value the extra time you put in that project. I totally appreciate the way you helped that colleague who was struggling. Okay, I'm listening to you. And you put everything down and you listen. Okay, I'm listening. I understand that. I totally understand where you're coming from. Or sometimes I can't understand that. There's no way I could possibly understand what you're going through. But I'm aware of that. And I understand that this must be a challenge for you or whatever it is. And then I encourage you to do this. I encourage you to do that. I want to encourage you to be the best you can do. So there's something really powerful about using these words, especially in emails. I really appreciate the fact that you all came here today with a 15-minute no change of the first email went out half an hour before, then it was 15 minutes. So we changed everything because there was an outside technical situation. So there's nothing can't be overcome. But I appreciate the people who came here. Some people would have tried to get onto the old link and didn't see the latest thing. But everyone that's here, you went out of your way to make sure you were here today. And thank you for that. So can you see how it feels when you're thanked and appreciated? But you also value someone for going over and above what is being asked for them. Okay, so let me just share with you the NLP Advanced Communication Skills training. Sorry, did someone ask a question there? No, okay. The NLP Advanced Communication Skills is happening on Thursday and Friday, Thursday the 8th and Friday the 9th and Friday the 16th of February 2024. This is it's like a foundation course for business. So if there's anyone you know would be interested in coming on that, please let me know and we'll send you the link. I'll send you the link in the email that follows today. We've got the early bird offer that closes on the 23rd of December, sorry, the 30th of December, and it's £375. We've also got a link for the States, where we're doing the same course, but we're running it on the same days, but we're running it from 1500 to 1800. So if there's anyone from America that you know be interested, let me know and we can send you the link for that. Also, if you're NLP trained, and you would like to join the NLP Business Circle Club. The NLP Business Circle Club, we meet on the second Tuesday and the fourth Thursday of every month. We meet for 2 hours live, and it's a live masterclass. We do probably about 30, 40 minutes of a training. We very often go into the breakout rooms for up to an hour to give people the opportunity to work on whatever we're covering. We have got loads of different topics. All the topics fit with working with business. The one we've got tomorrow is selling your services. So it's one for selling your services. Also, members of that get access to everything that has been recorded, all the videos, all the audios, and all the workbooks from December 2020. So we're about to have our 3rd anniversary. So thank you very much, all the people. I know that Magnus has been in there from the beginning. I know Leah's been in there. She tends to catch up on the recordings. But it's a lovely group, international group, and we're going to be expanding some of the services we're doing in there. And then if you'd like to have a chat with me, if you'd like to have a 45-minute complimentary strategy session, but something you want me to help you with, contact me at fiona@theprofessionalgrowthcompany.com and you can book that. Or if you want to find more about the NLP business practitioner training, it's actually the dual certificate training that's starting in September next year. And that's the NLP business practitioner and NLP business coach. Or if you're interested in one-to-one coaching for your professional development, we can chat about that. But you can use that strategy session just to chat with me and help me. But if there's something you want to run by me, or if you'd like to just test out how I work with clients, or if there's something that you really want me to work with specifically, we can do. Okay, that's it. We'll be, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be back to normal tomorrow. Magnus, if there's a problem for tomorrow, Magnus and Miriam, if we're still got a Zoom problem tomorrow, I will send this link in plenty of time, and I'll see if we can get breakout rooms set up for this for tomorrow. Okay, next week on the lunchtime, setting expectations for achieving results. So it's all about setting expectations, using your brain, understanding your brain as a sat nav. And when you set your expectations, guess what? That's what you focus in. Okay, I'm going to be here for about 10 minutes if anyone wants to chat with me. But if not, we're now at 17 minutes past. That's our 47 minutes we've done today. Give yourself a big round of applause. Thank you very much for coming along. Spread the word. Let people know about this, because this is a free session. Maybe there's people you know in business and they want to find out more about NLP. Please spread the word and look forward to seeing you soon. Okay, so take care.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Fiona.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks very much.